Nadkarni.
श्रावण सर 4:30 झाले तरी अजून लोक जॉईन होत आहेत. फार कमी लोक जॉईन झाले.
असं करा ना, आपण सुरू करूया.
आपण सुरू करायचंच, आम्ही थांबत नाही.
करूया.
बरोबर.
आपण थांबूया नको.
हो.
करूया. होतील तोपर्यंत जॉईन सगळे.
हो
हो ना.
ओके. वेलकम ऑल टू द 8th Pushpa. To the 8th Pushpa of this Yoga Pushpanjali series. As per YVN's tradition, let us begin our program with 3 Omkar and a prayer. I request Sonali Madam, therefore, for the same to take the Omkar and prayer. Over to Sonali Madam.
Thank you, Nitin sir. Namaskar, doctor, and good evening, everyone. Let us start. Let us start our today's Yoga Pushpanjali Pushpa-8 with 3 Omkar followed by prayer. So, to take your shoulder back and straighten your back. Your chin is parallel to the floor. Look straight. Now gently drop your eyelids. Now try to relax your maximum body parts. Observe your breathing. Breathing is going very slowly and naturally. For each Omkar, we inhale fully. So inhale fully and deeply. Om. 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 Om Bhurvasvah Tassaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Natu Sahaviryam Garvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amrutam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Keep your eyes closed for a while and enjoy the positive vibration of Omkar and prayer on your body and mind. Just be aware of your breathing, incoming breath, outgoing breath. Slowly shift your awareness from breath back towards the body and feel the stillness, steadiness, and relaxation of your body. Now slowly open your eyes. Thank you, everyone. Over to Nitin sir.
Thank you, Sonali madam. Good evening, all. 50 years ago, on 22nd March of 1974, on the auspicious day of Gudi Padwa, Sri Nimbalkar Guruji laid down the foundation of Yoga Vidya Niketan. As a part of the Golden Jubilee celebration, we are conducting this lecture series and are inviting eminent speakers to enlighten us on various topics related to yoga. So far, we have conducted 7 lectures and have covered varied topics like synthesis of traditional wisdom with modern scientific knowledge, yoga in Bhagavad Gita, Jnaneshwari, psychology of Yoga Sutra, science of meditation, concept of rebirth in yoga, vasana and behavioral patterns, etc. Varied subjects we have covered. Our today's topic is yoga sadhana and holistic health. We have today with us renowned psychiatrist Dr. Anand Nadkarni, and we are sure that it is going to be a very interesting session to know his viewpoints on this subject. As suggested by Doctor himself, today he is not delivering a lecture, but he will express his views through informal chatting. Gappa. So, Doctor आज आपल्याबरोबर गप्पा मारणार आहेत. So today, Jaya madam will be conversing with Doctor on the subject of yoga sadhana and holistic health. Our protocol for asking the questions at the end of the session remains the same as usual. So please type your questions in the chat box, and only at the end of the session, if time permits, then we will ask Doctor your questions. So to begin with, I request Jaya madam to first introduce Dr. Anand Nadkarni formally, and then they both will conduct today's session. Over to you, Jaya madam. Jaya, unmute yourself.
आवाज नहीं.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So, namaste everyone. It's indeed a pleasure to have Dr. Anand Nadkarni here in this Yoga Pushpanjali series. Most welcome to you, sir. Actually, he needs no introduction because Dr. Anand Nadkarni is a well-known name in the field of psychiatry. He is also a renowned writer, poet, music composer, anchor, accomplished sports counselor, and has many such feathers in his cap. He is the ardent student of Indian philosophy and has studied Veda, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Jnaneshwari, and many other scriptures, and he beautifully integrates them with modern medical science in a very simple and lucid language through his lectures. If we search for Mind Feast 2019 on YouTube, we can see his series on Vedanta Vichar and Vyaktitva Vikas. It has English subtitles too. When we see that, we understand how wonderful he is as a teacher also. His interest in literature, world history, Indian history, world cinema, as well as Indian cinema makes his talk very captivating. He is a prolific writer and has so far 29 Marathi books to his credit, out of which 17 are award-winning books. They are so popular that most of them have reached double-digit edition. Doctor has also been a creative consultant to many films, and among them, film Devrai and Kasav have won national award, and film Kadachit has won state-level award. In fact, he himself has received so many prestigious awards, but we will be mentioning here just a few of his stupendous work. Because above all this, he is a great humanitarian. During his post-graduation studies, he was moved by the stigma attached to the mental illness and felt the need to remove the ignorance and create awareness about the same. So along with his mentor and guide, Dr. Shubha Thatte, he founded the Institute for Psychological Health in Pune, which is now commonly known as IPH.
Thane.
IPH in Thane. Yeah, he opened in Thane. And today IPH has 2 more branches, one in Pune and one is in Nasik. Dr. Nadkarni has a profound motto, Sudhrud Man Sarvansati, meaning healthy mind for all. Thus, we can see that his focus is on the formation of very base of the healthy society. He is also one of the founder trustees of Muktangan, a de-addiction center in Pune, which was founded by Dr. Anil Avsat and Sunanda Avsat. He has been trustees to NGOs like Swayam Rehabilitation Trust for Children with Cerebral Palsy and Samvedana Epilepsy Support Group. He is also associated with Dr. Abhay Bang Search Society for Education and Research in Community Health. Then NGO Pratham, which is dedicated towards providing quality education to the underprivileged children, and mental health organization Sangat in Goa. Through IPH, Dr. Nadkarni conducts several activities like Ved, which provides vocational guidance to the students. And through this program, he has projected several personalities across India who have chosen offbeat path and excelled in their respective field against all odds. Then there is a movement like Jitnyasa for adolescent education, which is in collaboration with the Mumbai Police and Sri Mukti Sangatna. They also have a telephone helpline, Maitra. IPH also works with Force 1 Commando Group of Maharashtra State, Anti-Terrorism Department and Jail Department. And Dr. Nadkarni has started a unique project for the farmers of Maharashtra, Karta Shetkari, through their YouTube channel Avahan. Through this, he supports the farmers to improve their mental health and encourages them to become entrepreneurs. So we can see that he has touched so many segments of the society, and he is truly a diamond with many facets. With all this contribution to the society, we bow down to you with respect, sir, and thank you for accepting our invitation. So today's topic is yoga sadhana and holistic health. So actually, sir, see, this is when yoga is intended. I mean, it is a spiritual science which aims at the moksha and the liberation. But we see that there is a trend to turn to yoga as a cure for physical ailment. So is physical health is also a part of yoga?
Namaskar to everybody, and thanks to the organizers for inviting me to this prestigious lecture series. See, yoga does not differentiate actually between physical health and emotional health. Yoga actually, the yoga practices, as you said very rightly, were not focused on health in the way we look at health today. So we need to understand that first, that the traditional yoga is the practical aspect of the Vedanta philosophy. And it is the Vedanta philosophy, if the Advaita philosophy, if we want to get into practice, then how to do it? For that, for the self-actualization, actually Yoga Shastra prevailed at that time. But if you ask about the modern definition of health, I think Yoga Shastra touches the physical part, the psychological part, and even the social part. All three of them. And that is something which is very, very important. Now, when I say social, why do I say it in today's context? Because in today's context, there are people who come together for yoga sadhana. And that is also a very important point, because these are people who have similar quest, as is the group that I am addressing today. So therefore, yoga today touches all three aspects of health: the physical, the psychological, and social. And it was intended for the spiritual upliftment and spiritual quest in our tradition. So if we have to include spiritual health into it, so be it. So that is something. Now coming to your question that yes, physical health, because see, the point is that yoga starts, even Patanjali is very practical about the practices. He starts with the lifestyle. He starts with the do's and don'ts, right? He starts with the yam and yam. So he is very practical because he has to reach out to the sadhakas who are having, many of them, a grihastha life. So you can't go immediately to samadhi. No? You have to really groom people, and to groom people, you need to first regulate their lifestyle. They need to know what are the do's and don'ts. And then comes the body. And very interestingly, as we all did this relaxation, the omkar and the breathing, that is something that everybody has. So even Advaita talks about the unity, the unifying factors. Now, breathing is a unifying factor of humanity, even the animal world. So if you look at the Advaita philosophy, it has to also start in something that is everywhere, that is there within everyone. And therefore, very wisely, yoga starts with breathing. Because Yoga Shastra is for every sadhaka. It is not for some exclusive elite, who want to have moksha. That moksha sadhana is okay, it's a very lofty and laudable goal, but Yoga Shastra starts with people to make them sadhaka first. Right? And that is also very, very important, no? That you have to be a sadhaka first and then you will go towards sadhana. So before that, all of us are only students. We are Vidyarthi. From Vidyarthi, we become sadhakas. So the shift means it is from Vidyarthi to Jnanarthi. And for that shift, unless you touch upon physical health, you will restrict your practices. So that is why physical health comes. That is why your breathing comes. Therefore, pranayam comes. Therefore, asanas come. And what is very important in the entire yoga philosophy is that asana relates to all physical organs as well as systems, right? And why it is important? Because one needs to be not only aware of the organs and systems, but also you need to understand how this life energy passes through each one of them. And that is why very good yoga teachers will not miss the rhythm in yogic practices. Therefore, yoga is not exercise. One of my clients in my OPD was telling me that my yoga teacher was so enthusiastic that I started getting a lot of sweat and tiredness at the end of 30 days. Then I said, you change your yoga teacher. Because then possibly you have employed a gym teacher.
Even we insist on, being rhythmic, slow, steady.
you have got a wrong man. And actually, you must have ordered a gym instructor, not a yoga
teacher. Power yoga, sir. Now the power yoga has come, so.
But see, what is important even in power yoga, that does not tell you to dispense the rhythm part of it. It tells you to have that rhythm along with the energies, so that you are one with the rhythm, right? So coming back to your question, therefore, these are all the points which tell us that without the physical aspect of yoga, we cannot proceed upwards or further.
Correct. Yeah. And now you, sir, said that yoga has all the three aspects, like physical, psychological, as well as social aspect. this social aspect of yoga, I mean, I understood it now itself. Even this World Health Organization also defines yoga, I mean, health as the physical, mental, and social well-being, and
Yeah.
not merely the absence of the diseases or infirmity.
Correct.
Now, when they say, now, if a person doesn't have a mental disorder or as per medical science, then can we say that he is a mentally healthy? Like they say, no, it's not merely absence of these. So when a person doesn't have a mental disorder as per medical science, so can we say that we all are mentally healthy?
No, the definition also does not say it. No,
Uh,
it's not merely absence of disease, right? Actually, it goes closer to yoga. It says that you need to have an integration between your physical functions, psychological functions, and social functions. So even the classical definition of health, even if it does not use the word integration, it means the integration part of it. And what is very important in yoga is that yuja, the dhatu yuja, it's not only joining, it's integrating. So that is something now that all of us as students of Yoga Shastra need to keep in mind. That it's not only joined, it is integrated, right? So if these are my fingers and these are my fingers, this is joining, right? But this is integrating, right? So yoga talks about this, not this, right? And that is a very, very important aspect of yogic practices. That not this, from first achieve this, but then from this go on to this, because it is oneness. And therefore, whenever I talk to, I get a opportunity to interact with yoga teachers, I always try to make this point that it is finally you need to go towards Advaita. Sarvam idam khalu brahmam. So unless you have that na, you will always look at as yoga sadhana only as a tool, which is okay to start with. Not everybody, as we said, would go to that level. But one needs to get interested into na why of all these things. That what the tradition meant. The tradition meant integration. The tradition meant integration because that integration, the ekatmata, that Advaita is the very focus of tradition. And our tradition is very experiential. So unless the person experiences Advaita, the oneness, the person will not go on to any level of health. Please understand that Advaita is not only important to realize the highest spiritual goals, but unless there is Advaita between body and mind, the rhythm will not get created. Unless that rhythm gets created, we will not have productivity and happiness together. Unless productivity and happiness are integrated, we will not differentiate between a materialistic happiness and a non-dependent happiness. And when we start differentiating that, then slowly will start emerging the spiritual goals. Or what the modern science will say, the goals of self-actualization.
See, when you said this spiritualism, even the WHO, World Health Organization, they have also realized the need to include this fourth dimension of spirituality, spiritual health.
But
there is a common understanding that spirituality is of relevance only to the spiritual people. What is the role of spirituality in the holistic health?
That's right. Now that is something which is happening in the world. See, world will always have the conflict between dogmatic and pragmatic. Right? World will always have that. So now on one side, the mental health people are finding the need to know what the ancient schools are talking about. So that is something which is very, very important. So the Vedanta gurus are called by American Psychiatric Association, by our own Nimhans at Bangalore. So National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences. So on one side, now there is a lot of give and take amongst the philosophical schools, the cognitive psychology, the neurosciences. So all that is happening on one side, and we should welcome that, because it is the interaction that always takes everybody forward. And there is this misconception that philosophy is for the people who are older in age. Vinoba, a great philosopher and great social activist also, used to say, I'll first say it in Marathi and then translate it into English. He said that तरुण आणि तत्वज्ञान या दोघांची फारकत केल्यामुळे दोघांचेही तितकेच नुकसान झाले आहे. Now this is very important what Vinoba says. He says that if you have put a wedge between the young people and philosophy, both have come as losers. Both. Huh? Why? Because unless the young minds get into the quest, how will philosophy also go ahead? Right? You need to have a Narendra in his young age also to get enchanted with a goal which is beyond his skin. Right? So it's very
Philosophy
important.
gets developed with the debate.
That's
With the
right.
young
And
mind.
debate in that, if young people are part of that debate. Right? And that is how it is happening all over the world. So we need to again be cautious about that we are not spreading a dogma of our own. We are not saying ki, ours is the best and only. We say that, okay, all traditions and everybody has something to take upon, and then study it. Sarva Priyananda from the Vedanta Society of New York, some of you must have heard him. He himself did a course in Buddhism in US, right? Because it's very important to learn what all people are saying. Dalai Lama called Goleman, who wrote so much on emotional quotient, right? And there is a book where both of them interact. So this is something which is happening in the world. And that is something that we should talk about and try to explore and all that, right?
Now, generally, I mean, we all cannot become yoga sadhak. But as a common person, like how can we include this concept of dharana, dhyan, samadhi? Like, meditation, yes. But how do we include this concept, like traditional wisdom, whatever is told in traditional wisdom, to include it in our day-to-day life and improve the quality of life? How do we do that?
I will first talk about meditation also, since you have mentioned it. See, the point that many of us are very thrilled with the word meditation. And in my OPD, every day I get parents who are saying, teach my child meditation. Will meditation work? So many times I tell these parents that how far do you yourself meditate? So everybody wants the child and the student to do meditation. They don't want, because we don't have problem. So unless you have a problem, you won't meditate. That is how people have these kind of notions, right? But let's come to people who are meditating, different meditative practices they are doing. I generally use following terms, which I'll use for you. There is something which is known as dhyana kruti. So dhyana kruti is the method of meditation, right? So it is a kruti, right? Then there is dhyana paddhati, which kind of meditation you will have. Now people focus on kruti and paddhati, all right. They select, they start doing. But then the focus has to be on dhyana sthiti. Dhyana sthiti means experience of the inner rhythm, experience of what modern science calls as homeostasis, which is again an ancient word. That it is the balance of your body and mind, right? And then we need to go from dhyana sthiti to dhyana vritti. So people are interested in dhyana sthiti, but people do not think about how to bring that dhyana sthiti into a dhyana vritti. And that is where the most difficult part. And unless your dhyana sthiti starts seeping into your dhyana vritti, you are not giving justice to the kruti and paddhati of your chosen method of meditation. So that is something that we need to understand, and we need to focus on the dhyana vritti. So sthiti and vritti and sthiti are at one point in time almost interchangeable. And then when you are a seeker, when you are a sadhaka, it's not that you are a seeker during 30 minutes of your meditation, isn't it? Then where is the meditative attitude in you, in your day-to-day? Where is it? I mean, are we then encompassing that in the morning 5 to 5:30 meditation? And then what? So unless it seeps into our day-to-day, how will we really get, if we have to say, benefits of dhyana? Now I am on the our stage. I mean, all the people who are in this world, only limited thing. But in that limited sphere also, we need to have that. Now, for example, if I am doing meditation, then my day-to-day activities such as cooking, self-care also needs to get into rhythm. My occupational activities also need to get in rhythm. My leisure activities also should have a slow, wonderful rhythm. Now, that is what meditation has to contribute, or we need to learn from the meditative practices. And then what happens? Then whatever I am doing has a potential to be meditation. And personally, when I look back at my own experience, I feel this, I experience this, that the way I was interacting with my patients in my OPD has changed over the years. And now I get this experience many times that I am in a meditative stage when I am with my patients. And I have a habit, so to say, that my OPD goes on without break for 11 hours, 12 hours on a particular day. So I start at 9:30, end at 7:30. So without a break, without lunch, only with fluids.
That is a meditation.
And for me, I observe that at 6:37, I may have physical fatigue, but I am contented. Now, that is something which actually helps me physically. It helps me emotionally. When I'm there with my patient, I'm there trying to be one with my patient. Again, unless that Advaita is experienced, which as a doctor, I get an opportunity to experience it with people whom I meet, and their emotions and their pains and their life scripts. So if I do that, which means I also grow as a clinical psychiatrist, which means as a clinical psychiatrist, I was only focusing on symptoms, syndromes, and their treatment. Now I start focusing on scripts that people live. And with them come emotions. And then comes my alignment with their emotions. And from there comes a state where there is a integration, there is a unity. And that ekatmata, that advaita helps me. It will help the patient, all right, but it helps me. So as a seeker, it helps. As a sadhaka, it helps. So we need to work on how we are going to expand those tiny bits of experiences that we all experience during the meditative state, the dhyana sthiti, towards the dhyana vritti. Right? So I think that meditation is something which is very, very serious, that we need to do more than a procedure and get it into our day-to-day life. So that is for meditation. So because you use that word, I took the liberty of
Yeah,
talking
but
on.
you beautifully explained, sir, like this dhyan, dharana, dhyan concept. Like when you said about your doctor-patient relationship, but it applies everywhere in all professions,
Everywhere,
like teachers,
everywhere,
students,
in
and even
all
we work
vocations.
in office also.
Now coming to your question, that in our day-to-day life,
Yes.
how
Something like mindfulness, right, sir?
you label it anything. See, the point is, different schools will label different things according to their own understanding. And we need to find out what is at the base of it all. As Vedanta says, consciousness is at the base of it all. Buddha doesn't talk about consciousness, but Buddha does talk about mind, right? Vedanta goes a little further and also says that there is something beyond mind. So whatever, but we need to understand what all these people are saying for us. Now, if I have integration in my day-to-day life, what will happen and what should I do? As a seeker, as a sadhak, I need to break my shackles and expand my boundaries. Now, what are breaking shackles? Breaking shackles means anything that divides creates a shackle. So, again, going back to my role, occupational role as a doctor, if I say that I am a doctor giving treatment, you are a patient, you are taking treatment, then I am creating a shackle. If I say that me as doctor in my knowledge and you as a patient in expert in the experience called illness, we come together as partners, healing would occur. I have broken a shackle. This is what I mean by breaking a shackle. We all unfortunately stay in a hierarchical society. And there are hierarchies everywhere. And hierarchies means there are people higher and people lower and people equal. The sadhana should at least try to take us in at least one field of life, at least in some moments of that one field, to a level where we experience that equality. And that equality, which is based on Advaita, is a higher equality. Experientially, it is a higher equality. So, what is very important is to understand that this would come with breaking the shackles, means breaking the divisions. And in our day-to-day activities, we can break the shackles. Why shouldn't we be a little more courteous towards the people who provide us services? That is breaking a shackle, very, very common. Why in our social life if there is a chance to help somebody, we go and help proactively. That is breaking a shackle. And expanding boundaries means looking at similarities, noting the differences, but looking at similarities. Noting the differences, but not rating the differences. And looking at similarities and looking at them as chance for integration. That is what the Indian tradition says. That look at similarities as an opportunity of integration. Yes, there are differences, accept them, but do not rate them. So it's very, very important that we don't go for that kind of a division. It's again, Vinoba says very nicely, he says, विषमता हे वास्तव आहे, पण म्हणून आपण विषमतेचा फक्त स्वीकार करायचा असतो, विषमतेला वाढवायचं नसतं. So what is important is that yes, we are in an unequal world. We take it as reality, but we don't justify that reality. And you will see that you and me, some of our time during the day goes in justifying this, justifying inequality. To say how today's social life, just see that, how we are special, how we require something, how we are special than them. Look at that. So that is something which I say is expanding your boundaries. And when you are expanding your boundaries, then you would be sad about the things which are happening in the world. You may not be able to do anything about it, you see. That I may not, I mean, who am I to do something in Israel and Palestine and Chechnya and Croatia and all those things, all those countries? Nobody. But I need to feel that there is something that is going on here there in this world. And it should give me a moment of sadness. And rather than that, I should not say, it is happening there, no. So till the time that the petrol and diesel prices are okay, I am not concerned. Right? When they will increase, then I will see. So what I'm doing, I'm again getting the shackles. That unless anything touches my door, it's not mine. I'm reducing my boundaries. I'm getting into shackles. That is not what Yoga Shastra says, because that is not what Advaita says.
The shackles of narrow thinking, only
That's
about our own self.
That's
Immediate,
so,
whatever affects me
coming back to your question, in our daily life, there are opportunities galore where we can go beyond our skin. In our routine, mundane daily life, we should try to create these moments. That is living yoga.
And then when now you were telling about, we should only notice the difference. And we should look for the similarities, like giving more prominence to this. So similar to that, like I remember, like you used to talk about this samagrata. I mean, not very, I mean, that's what ekagrata and the diversity. So like that, I just want to
saying the same thing. It is synthesis. I'm not saying
attention, because in day-to-day life, like we have to do that. Sometimes we have to, when we are talking, also we have to think of some planning or whatever. So how do we integrate that? Because
that is okay. That is a very different process, which is the individual process which is going on within ourselves. We can talk about that also. But what is very important is that in the social life also the synthesis is very important. Because your question was for the day-to-day life. So in my social life also, that synthesis is very important. And I find that in our culture wonderfully well. If you go to a dhaba which is on the highway, anywhere in this country, and take the menu, and it will have Punjabi, Chinese, South Indian. It will have all. Huh? And there will be 12 pages of that menu. However, whatever will be there, there or not, we don't know. Those 12 pages of menu, they give you a flavor of our culture. That we have Chinese bhel and what not. Right? Synthesis. Right? There's difference. I'm sure Chinese people will not like our Chinese. Right? So that is in our social life. These are the things that we are talking about. Now, you are talking about something that is within. So see the point there are three words: ekagrata, anekagrata, and samagrata. So what is very important is that our consciousness and the mind functioning in the consciousness. Now, the first word consciousness I use from the yoga point of view. Then we come to mind, and then we come to personal consciousness. Right? So my personal consciousness, I need to focus that personal consciousness on a goal related activity. There has to be an aim. When I totally focus it, it is called as ekagrata. Right? Now, for an indefinite time, I cannot do that because there are many stimuli in my life, and I need to have a prioritization. So what I do is I minimize this window and I maximize another window. Now, with effort and with practice, people can have 3 or 4 simultaneous windows. As the security people can watch CCTV ka 8 windows. So, so that way I start watching all 8, then it becomes anekagrata. That while in a meeting, I think about a menu that I'm planning for guests who are coming in the evening, etc., etc. That is anekagrata. Now, what is very important is, again, there is that rhythm. Many times we see very busy people, say corporate leaders or leaders from any part of any sphere of influence, where they will shift from one to one to one to one very, very easily. So that anekagrata also has to have rhythm. And that ekagrata and anekagrata has to have another word called samarasata. That samarasata is where yoga best comes in. That you need to be involved in the process. Unless you are involved in the process, your ekagrata and anekagrata will lose the agra. That means the point. And once that samarasata is also added, then that state is called samagrata. And that samagrata is a fulfilling experience because in that samagrata, all elements of my being, my personal being, come together. And what is another important point from Advaita point of view is that the me, that is my body-mind complex, at least for that movement, gets liberated. What Buddha will say as the nirvana of the ahankara. So that is actually a kind of a spiritual experience, if you want to call it. But what is very important, that for that moment at least, me that is bound by my body and mind lose the shackle. And for that movement, at least, I expand my limits. Right? To which Advaita will say that it's a window towards Brahman. It's not Brahman, but it's at least a window towards Brahman. So, if I look at it this way, then every act in my life that I'm doing, I will try to make it more rhythmic. and I'll try to discover that rhythm. Even if there is a gap, say I'm doing something, there is a gap. Then also there is a rhythm in that gap, which I will find again with my breathing. Body is there to help me find that. Mind is there, that Omkar is there to find me again, get back into rhythm. So that is something which is very, very important. Most of our religious practices like japa, they are actually to create rhythm. We have got them shackled into numbers, 108 time and all that. That is something.
More
Right.
attention is gone to those. There are machines also.
And I am not, Himangi has put it there, but I'm not talking about abnormal mind at all. I'm not here in my position as a clinical psychiatrist. I am here in as a position of mental health activist. Right? She has said that there are so many illnesses that require medication. Yes, I'm not currently in the segment of mental illness. I'm currently in the segment of positive mental health. So please align with me and don't go to abnormal psychology now. We can have a separate interaction for it.
So now this coming back to this our health concept, like what is the connection between the mental health and our physical state or physical health, we can say?
Yes.
Our disturbances, how do they affect? Like
now there is a lot of evidence on this, that how our mind affects our physiological functions. It was called as psychosomatic medicine. Now it is called as lifestyle medicine. Now then it is called as holistic medicine, and so many names that are used. What is very important to understand is that if you want to have a total solution, then you need to consider many factors. Only an intervention in one limited area will give you results in that limited area. It's like, again, to give an example from the clinical side, that I can reduce the symptoms of, say, psychosis by my antipsychotic medication, but I cannot increase the quality of the life of my patient through medication. For that, I will have to have a separate intervention. Correct? So that is something which is looking at holistically. That on that one side, the chemical or the treatment part is okay. That will take care of that, right? But then if I have to improve the quality of life, then I will have to use another instrument, another intervention. So that is something that I need to understand about my health and about illnesses also. What medical science classifies as physical illnesses are predominantly physical illnesses, that is dominating in physical symptoms. And what are psychological illnesses? That means the psychological symptoms predominate. Again, this is not a watertight classification. We in psychiatry have something what is called as somatization disorder, which means you will get only physical complaint but without a physical cause. Right? So we need to look at all this as a spectrum on one side, and we need to look at all this as this also. That your body and your mind are, at that level. There is a very interesting concept called psychoneuroimmunology now. During COVID, this came very much so. And people studied this also, that psychoneuroimmunology. That even the effects of virus, how they can be different according to all these factors around us. And there is a lot of work on this. There is a nice book called The Altered Traits. So it's a nice book by Goldman and Richardson. So where this mind-body complex, I mean, our mind and our body, all, and immunity and everything, how it is integrated, that people are looking at different aspects of it. This was started in the Western world by a person called Norman Cousins. You can Google on him. Norman Cousins was one of the first proponents of body-mind unity. And from his own personal experiences, this whole thing started. He was a journalist. Anatomy of an Illness is his first path-breaking book, right? So, Anatomy of an Illness, The Healing Heart, Head First, many books Norman Cousins wrote. Those people who are interested in body-mind medicine should definitely study Norman Cousins. He's a author that we cannot ignore him at our own peril. So there is so much of work from there to here, the altered traits that I talked about. Biology of Beliefs, most of you must have also read. So much of literature. All that literature tells us that, look, unitary view and holistic view of all the phenomena that are around you. You have a choice. You have a choice to take a unitary view, the restricted view, or you have a choice to take a holistic view, which means explore the dimensions of your experience. Explore the dimensions of any phenomena which is there in the outside world. Explore the dimensions of people's behavior who are with you or whom you meet. Always there is a chance. No? So finally, that holistic part is not only health, it is regarding our life, it is regarding the way we think and the way we feel.
They we know this stress, anxiety, they lead to this diabetes, asthma, and so many things. Even our immunity power also, it's quite closely related to. Now when you mentioned of these Norman Cousins, he had met them, you had said it in this Arogyacha Artha, I think you have told, right? If you could just tell it here, how the positive emotions also affect our body, because even in our yogic practices, we give that, Manas Chintan, Ishta Chintan, we give the positive instructions to the body. If you could share that
my
Norman
experience
Cousins
of
experiment.
working with type 1 diabetes children. I have been working with juvenile diabetics, what they are called as type 1 or insulin dependent diabetic kids for all these years. And there have been research also of which I have been a part of, where we have studied this, and there are papers also published that all our kids, when they were diagnosed as having insulin dependent diagnosis and they have to take daily insulin injections and they have to do the testing and the blood sugar level and the diet and they have to look after the hypoglycemic episodes and so on and so forth, the entire life rhythm of that child gets disturbed. And just giving a dietary chart or calculating insulin dose doesn't solve the problem. That is how 40 years back, my mentor, Dr. Vijay Asgaonkar, who was a very popular dietitian, with him, we started doing a holistic kind of work with these kids. So when we started talking to the kids, we found out that there were so many questions in the minds of these kids that were creating anxiety. So we have to give them answers that they could understand, and still those answers had to be truthful and factual. So that is how I found a lot of metaphors, examples to convince the kids. So make them well informed about their illness, make them well informed about their reactions, their emotions, their thoughts, and then get that empowerment into their actions. So in our team at that time also, and from there it continues till today, every child above the age of 7 years takes his or her own insulin injection. Now, though it has become very easy to test blood sugar, blood glucose, everything. Now our kids above 9 test everything. Their own blood sugar, their own urine sugar, their own insulin, they calculate their dose, and all that is empowering. What is very important to understand is that something that was felt as humiliating now has changed its emotional tone. And now Our kids say, I manage my hypo, I give myself my injection, I calculate my dose. And then what happens? Then the blood sugar, the HbA1c comes under control. So your pathological parameters come under control with empowerment, which is emotional. Right. So this is a very good example that happens in kids. Right. The 8-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 12-year-olds. So that tells us that, look, there is a way to look holistically. In our work with JDs, juvenile diabetics, a lot of work we do with parents, because parents is the next social stage. We have to sometimes work with the friends of our kids, the schools, the social part of it, right? And today our Juvenile Diabetic Foundation Mumbai chapter has most trustees of the trust who are themselves JDs. So they are running that organization. So much of empowerment. They are now created a string of role models for the smaller kids who come in the foundation. That is the social impact. When you have so many role models in that sphere of insulin dependent diabetes, then your whole emotional thing changes. No, when a new kid and a new family comes for a camp and he sees 150, 200 kids and their families getting empowered, whole emotional setup changes. And the emotions change, your blood sugar changes. Now, that is something that happens, science has proved it.
That means, I mean, we also have, we have to take our responsibility of our own health, like instead of depending too much
Who
on
else?
the medical technology to manage our health.
Who else? We will have to take. Only we will have to take. Now, who else will take? I said.
Nowadays, what is
You mean insurance?
what I was saying that our own health, and I was not talking about the children, but then usually there is a tendency, like, I mean, my disease of curing me has become the responsibility of the doctors. I mean, you give me the medicine, I will take it and so on. But there are certain things that we have to change within ourselves, our thought pattern, because
Sure,
that is what our yoga teaches us, right?
sure.
Our health is totally depends on
Absolutely.
our mental conditions. Even whether it is a case of
That's
like
right. Now,
COVID.
I'll give you example of the epileptic people with whom we are. You mentioned the work of Samvedana Epilepsy Foundation. That what is going to be the self-talk of our epileptic people when they are taking their daily tablets? Are they going to look at those tablets as a punishment that God or fate has given to them? Or they are saying that with these tablets, I am getting the control over my consciousness back. Right? Because whenever there is an epileptic seizure, then the person loses the control over consciousness. Right? For the non-epileptics, it's an experience which they will not be able to really experience it, the non-epileptics, because every morning we wake up. And every morning we wake up, what a blessing that is, we don't really know. That we have control over that consciousness. Now we can wake up. But an epileptic person has no control over that basic thing called personal consciousness. Right? So then if there is a help in terms of the medication, how I look at the medication is important. Right? And in that group, our Samvedana group of epilepsy, that support group, when the role models are there in front of the people, that these people are looking at the whole treatment like this, right? Then the motivation level increases. Motivation level increases, behavior changes. Behavior changes, you become not only compliant with medication, but your attitude towards medication also changes. You get seizure-free life. It's all like that, na? One is dependent on the other, right? So once you see this, na, then you realize that it's very important. And even in predominantly physiological illnesses, your attitude will be very important for your help-seeking behavior. Your attitude will be very important for compliance. Your emotions will be very important for learning, right? And that is something which is very, very important. Na? And what is important is that me as an individual, when I'm taking help, there has to be some point. Empowerment is one aspect. And what we call in yoga, the sharanata, is very important. It's not surrender. Surrender is a very, very lousy translation, right? So, so it's not surrender because we then start looking at it as something negative, right? But it is something which is more of a samarpan, that when I am doing something, right, there are factors within my control, factors beyond my control. For factors beyond my control, I need to be sharana to science. And I need to be sharana to science in the health-related, illness-related things. And who is the representative of science to me? The doctor. So on one side, empowerment is important. On the other side, sharanata is important. That now I have given myself up in your care. And since you are caring, I don't care. I don't have to care. You know, some 10, 12 years back, I was undergoing a surgical procedure. And for the varicosities in my leg. And there was a general anesthesia. So I was what I was. And the anesthetist lady, senior anesthetist, she gave me a very interesting remark. She said, now I understand that you not only talk about stress management. Huh? So I said, how do you understand? So she said, on the table, you know, your pulse, your BP, all your parameters are as if you are relaxed. So I said, because I'm very clear that you are going to take over. And the surgeon is going to take over. So I'm completely Sharana. And I know where I have to put my ego, my personal ego, completely in a package and give it to you. That is Sharanata. So for this, you are my Ishwara. Right? And so I'm very, very, very relaxed. आता तुमच्या हातात आहे. चालविसी हाती धरून या. So that is also important in health. Because people, many times, patients, they become skeptics because they do not know how to surrender, where to surrender. So on one side, empowerment is very important. On the other side, in Yoga Shastra, everywhere in our tradition, Guru Sharanata, Jnana Sharanata is a very, very important aspect. Even Bhagavad Gita talks about it. So that Sharanata is not the Sharanagati that we talk about in Marathi. It's much, much, much different than what it is. But we take it as that, you know. ह्यांच्या पुढे कशाला शरण द्यायचं, मला पण समजतं. And I will go on Google and get all this. Fine, you go on Google, no problem. Get your answers. But at one point, you need to understand that there is somebody who has come to help you. Select a person with requisite experience. That is fine.
That you can say having a faith, like having a faith in the person.
Yes. What is important is it's not a blind faith. See, when I know in my personal experience, I knew that my doctor is good, my surgeon is good, my anesthetist is good, hospital facilities are adequate, everything that is within my control, I have chosen. Now I need to completely believe in their expertise. And I have to believe that they will do their best. Right? So that is something which is important. And that is where your body, mind, it plays. Right? One of my mentors, Dr. R.D. Bapat, Dr. Ravi Bapat, who was a very noted surgeon. He has written a lot of books in Marathi, so some of you must have read those. One anecdote of his, that he was on a round of choosing the patient for tomorrow's operation day. One patient was there who was completely investigated, ready to undergo that operation. And sir found that the anxiety level of this patient is very high. So he postponed his list by 3 days, made it a point to go and talk to that person every morning, evening, talk to the relatives. And after 3 days, the patient told sir, "Sir, tomorrow, we will do the operation." So he worked with the emotions of the patient, right? So I, as an intern, fresh MBBS, asked my sir that, "Sir, you were the same surgeon. He had the same body. And what did you achieve by postponing the operation by 4 days?" So sir said, and mind you, these are pearls of wisdom. Sir said that surgical excellence can be my prerogative, but recovery is a joint process. Now, this is enlightening, right? That this is something that we as doctors also have to keep in mind, and patients also have to keep in mind, right? And I mean, salute to my teacher that he could grasp the anxieties of the patient and the relatives. Not only that, but he could work on them to get that patient to that level, right? So this is actually empathy in action, isn't it? So that is something which is important. So this is how mind and body work. I think we can go on talking on this, but
Correct. Yeah. In our Patanjali Yoga Sutra also, Sage Patanjali, Maharishi Patanjali has given that Bhavana Chitta Prasadanam. Maitri Karuna Mudita Upekshanam.
I've lost your voice. Yeah.
Sorry? My voice is not clear.
I lost your voice, huh?
Now,
Yeah.
now it
Now,
is
now
okay.
it is.
No?
Now it is. For a while, I'll just close my camera.
Okay. In
Huh.
Patanjali Yoga Sutra also, Maharishi Patanjali, he tells how to keep our mind prasanna, like Bhavana Chitta Prasadanam, he tells, like Maitri Karuna Mudita Upekshanam, Sukha Dukkha Punya Apunya Vishanam, Bhavana Chitta Prasadanam. Like he says, like whoever is Sukhi, like you develop Maitri towards them, whoever is Dukhi, you empathize with them. And sir is there?
Yeah.
Acha, no, because I could not see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
नाही,
Because
नाही, आहे
because
that
of the
side आहे.
bandwidth, I have
फक्त
closed
off
my
केला होता
camera.
camera.
जो
That's it.
पुण्य है उसके लिए मुदिता दिखाने का एंड देन वॉट एवर अपुण्य है वो उपेक्षा so that is what I remembered. So even Maharishi Patanjali also has given these 4 solutions like how to maintain our chitta happy.
And that Maitri Mudita Karuna Upeksha is there with Buddha also. So what is very, very important is there are factors and there are reflections in many traditions. So, and these are bound to happen because these people were pragmatic, not dogmatic. So I think all these emotions do play a role in all the health related aspects.
So as you said, like it will really will go on and on with you particularly here. So I would just see if our participants, if they have any questions. So I will just read out their question.
Yeah. Because it is 5:45 already. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll just see their question. So, Hemangini, I think you have already addressed.
Sir has already addressed. So no questions are there, Jaya. In the chat box, no questions are there. You can have a few more questions to doctor on your own. If you have any questions, you just ask. Till 10 minutes you can ask. Since there are no questions.
Actually, what I was talking about this, sir, nowadays there is a tendency to make it a responsibility of the medical technology of our, our health is in that, because for understanding our own health, like we go through these all clinical stages and all, clinical tests, like, this X-ray or MRI and so many things, because we do not understand about our own health. Of course, for getting a clear picture, we have to. But then I remember you were talking about this iatrogenesis in your Arogyacha Artha. See, like this clinical, social, as well as cultural iatrogenesis. Huh. So I just, if you could just address to that in brief, like.
Yeah. Now see, what is very important to understand in all this is what? See, medical science has grown in terms of investigations. But one of the problems with our medical people, the consultants, is that our too much dependence on them. And not only that, but people are so much used to the biomedical model, and most of the corporate hospitals will have their kind of packages of investigations, which people will themselves avail, and what people call as health checkups. Now it's okay to check your health, but these are packages that are coming. Those packages people take and then they go to the doctor. Actually, it could have been going to the doctor and then having the investigations. Now, that is where I think some of us have lost the way. That first go to the doctor, talk to the doctor, then decide the battery of investigations together. But that is for the corporatization of our health, right? So what is very important is this corporatization of health is taking us away from the holistic health. So it treats our body as a machine. And once it treats our body as a machine, then what happens is that the doctor becomes a mechanic, and then your psychological factors are gone for a toss. And then the bonding part between the two, the healing part between the two, the addressing the reality of that individual with his script, with his relationships, with his family, all that goes away. So that is something that we are losing because of the consumer culture. That we are the consumers of the health services, and we have to get it. It's our right. And on one level, to have access to medical services is definitely a right. To have access to reasonable and competent medical services is a right. But the relationship between the doctor and the patient, the doctor and the families, is something which has to be worked out in both ways. Now, what is the vicious cycle? The doctors who are focused on the investigations would not focus on communication. As a result of which, the gap between the doctor and the patient, the gulf, would widen, which would give rise to the mistrust between both of them. Doctor will not trust patient, and the patient will not trust the doctor, and then whatever is happening in the Western world, that there is a lot of legalization. And in our country, we people can have more productive time to be with our patients. But if you go to the Western world, 50% or more than that time is lost in documentation. Right? Because you have to be safe. You have to be defensive. Right? So these are the things which are concerning factors on both sides, the medical system as well as the consumers. That people are also becoming more and more consumer. And since we are in a consumer culture, why would the health system be an exception to the rule? Everybody is there for profit, making a buck as quickly as possible. So I think these are the issues that are very important in 21st century. And unless we have openness on both sides. Again, I'm not saying that consumerism is bad, but unabashed consumerism would definitely take us away from health. So that is something that I think we need to understand.
Correct.
Sir,
So
I
at
will add
least,
to it.
from this thing, being the yoga students, we should understand and get back connected with our own self, try to understand our own body, our own mind, and then take the responsibility of our own health, and that is the best solution, isn't it?
Very true.
So I think if
No,
there
one
are
second. I will add something to it, sir. I will add something to it. In olden days, means in our childhood days, there was family physician. I still remember our family physician. He knew everything about my grandfather, my father, and to me. And even when we used to go to him, he used to we used to have a dialogue with our doctor as a friend. I still remember. म्हणजे आमचे जे डॉक्टर होते ते आम्हाला इतक्या
Yes.
सहजपणे आई अशी पिटाळायची की जा जरा डॉक्टरांकडे आणि
No,
तुला काय झालं
no, what has happened, unfortunately, is that the family physician concept is slowly going into kind of obsolescence, but it will come back. See how it will come back. Number one, the allopathic school also now has started post-graduation in family practice.
हो
We are again coming back. Now there is a post-graduation in family practice. So you will have trained postgraduate family doctors. It has just started, but again the wheel is going back, right? One. Secondly, there are other than allopathic branches doctors, the Ayurvedic, the homeopathic, who are also trying to fill up that gap. So they need to also understand that they have again a responsibility of being a family doctor. Correct? And partly the family doctor's role will come to yoga shikshaks also.
yes yes
And
yes
that
Very
will
true.
be a very, very important aspect of all the people who will become yoga shikshak.
yes
Because they will go to teach yoga or people will come to them, and yoga shikshaks will not carry the stigma of mental health. So there is a possibility that yoga shikshaks will be preferred by people for sharing their own personal stories and scripts. And that is why it becomes very, very important for all the practicing yoga teachers to get educated in basic counseling skills.
Yes, very rightly said, sir. Because we say unless until a yoga teacher becomes a friend with his patient, then only it is possible. It has to be uh, rather than he should not look at him as a patient, as you said, breaking the shackles. He should look at him as a friend and a philosopher to him. And when that faith is developed, then only these things will go ahead, isn't
And
it?
even for the
Yes, you're
doctors
right.
also, you think it is necessary to have some basic knowledge about yoga. So how yoga helps the mind,
Yes, why not?
isn't it?
I see the point is that we doctors also need to be holistic, no? And as we need to understand about yoga, we also need to understand about communication skills. People as doctors who have inherently nice communication skills, they do very well in the practice. But now communication skills is a part of medical curriculum at many parts in the world. In our country, still things are in very infantile stages, but still. So these are also the ways in which medical fraternity will have to develop itself. Now, that is also happening in our country. I was talking to
Integration will be there.
a prospective IMA president from one of the major cities in Maharashtra, and he was telling me he wants me to come as at the ceremony where he will be uh, put as a president. But then he said that throughout the year, I want to have regular seminars and workshops on doctor-patient communication, healing aspects of medicine, not only for doctors, but for paramedics also. I said, okay, great. So that is something from where the official bodies like IMA also have to go for, and they are going in their own way.
Yes, unless until means it has to be a complementary thing. Both of them, yoga and then medical practice should complement each other, and then only we can look for the holistic health.
Dr. Balakrishnan has raised hand.
Yeah, 1 second. Balakrishnan, it's actually Dr. MJ. Better if you put a question, because what happens, then everybody starts talking.
Fine.
So as a protocol, you put your question into the chat box. We'll ask
Yes.
doctor. Okay? Let it be like that.
Okay.
So please type it out and then we'll ask.
Yeah.
Definitely. But doctor, it was such a wonderful session.
Thank
Conducted,
you.
and you have taken out time from your such a hectic schedule. I know you're 2 days in Nashik, 2 days in Pune, and not hectic, I won't say, because you love it. That is not a hectic schedule. Definitely, it's not a hectic schedule. And we actually are really grateful that you came here and enlightened us on all these subjects. Thank you very much. And we are really, really grateful. I would just see if Dr. Mjit is typing anything into it, then we'll give him a chance. So let it be there. Dr. Mjit, please type it out in the chat box so that we can read out.
But I will have to go out at 6.
Yeah, sure. Yes. We'll not
have another meeting.
Already it is on 5:56.
It's
so
okay.
I think okay. Then we'll do one thing. We'll end up the session with one Omkar. Since you are busy, I know, I understand. So I would request Sonali madam to take one Omkar and we'll end the session. Over to Sonali.
Thank you, Nitin sir, and thank you, Dr. Nadkarni. After listening to this beautiful Yoga Pushpa, we conclude our Yoga Pushpa-8 with one Omkar, with chanting one Omkar. So sit straight, make your spine straight. Now just gently drop your eyelids. Observe your breathing. For Omkar, inhale fully. Enjoy the positive vibration of Omkar on your body and mind. Slowly open your eyes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll end the meeting.
Okay, namaste.